Hello, and welcome to another video by Rick Miracle, me, in my series Freemasonry and Satanism. And yet again, I'll say it again. It's just strange I named it Freemasonry and Satanism, because it's quite appropriate for the reality that I have discovered what's behind the scenes. And this is going to be an interesting video, I suspect. A topic that a lot of people have heard the name, the New World Order. Ralph Epperson, A Ralph Epperson. A rather new author to me, but somebody who is as well known as many of the other book reviews I've gone over. But I suppose there's a bunch of other authors out there I'm not aware of. I'm learning about new ones all the time that have been around for many years and sold bestsellers and well recognized. So the point being there is, I think, there's a lot of people out there providing plenty of evidence of what the heck is going on planet Earth. Personally, I think people are going to have to reevaluate what they think they know. I know I had to reevaluate what I thought I knew. And it's humbling to discover with doing your own research, if you keep an open mind, that things are not what you thought they were. One of those bizarre things that a lot of us experience, that we can't question, are dreams. I've had, there's books written about it, strange dreams that have no explanation for them. Coming around the corner, you're in a dream, and you're calling out for your friend for help. And then your friend comes around the corner, and you're so happy to see him, and he pulls out a revolver and shoots you right in the chest. I've had that dream. And more bizarre dreams. Me and 3 friends were on this high plateau overlooking the ocean. Obviously, in my dream, it appeared to be a tropical place with plants up to here, but there was a winding path you could walk down through. I'm just making a point here, as bizarre as this is going to sound. So me, my girlfriend, another friend, and another relative, a guy. So me, my girlfriend, another girl, and another guy. And we're on this high plateau in my dream. And there's this winding path. If you look over the cliff, you can see the ocean. So obviously in the tropics. And in the distance, we can see something like an old church building, brick, or temple, or lodge. Something like that. And then when we get closer, it's got these great grand doors you can open. And we got there, and we opened them. And what I beheld stunned me. It was a group of people, full of people, involved in a sexual orgy. I kid you not, in the dream. I looked at my girlfriend in the dream, and we turned about and beamed it right out of that door. But before I left the door, I looked back, and the other girl that was with me and my relative had joined in on the orgy, believe it or not. And we immediately looked at each other and left. So that was some saving grace for me, for my reaction to that kind of activity. But my point is, what's with that dream? And I have a couple diaries that over the last 7, 8, 9, 10 years, I've been waking up, and you forget your dreams right away. So I would wake up and I would immediately go get my diary and put the date in there and recollect in writing what I dreamt. So my point is, sometimes it's so surreal. You almost wonder if there isn't another reality out there. And I'm happy to say that if there was, and I was in that other reality, and I walked in this big room full of people having a sexual orgy, my reaction was to turn around and leave really quick. I'm telling you the truth, that's what I did. But there's this crazy world, a dream world. Then there's the one with the Peruvian shamans and Mexican shamans and shamans all over the world taking different kinds of drugs, mushrooms, plants, whatever, extracts, and somehow speeding up their metabolism or their frequency, and they're able to see another reality. Entering another reality. And this is documented. Then you got Edgar Cayce, who would go in a trance and give people readings for cures for their ailments, for their health. Then halfway through his 40-year career, 16,000 plus readings, he started doing life readings, telling people about their past life in Atlantis, in Rome, etc., etc. And then the government's into remote viewing, I've gone over in past videos, where they have these projects where they recruit a bunch of people who have extra psychic abilities. So if you were exhibiting some paranormal psychic abilities, and let's say you were in some school in Boston, and the system administration, the government got wind of it, you would probably be recruited into the PSI, remote viewing program for the government, where they put people in these little chairs, like a aircraft pilot's chair, or a barber chair, or whatever, and you go into a trance, and they train you, they give you a picture and an address, and you leave your body, and you go spy on the Russians or the Chinese, or whatever. So remote viewing, there's plenty of books. Tim Rifat, Ingo Swann, David Morehouse, look these up. And then you got CERN opening up the portals with no clouds above, but the whole blue sky starts turning into a big vortex like the water draining in your tub. And you can hear the sucking sound on the video on YouTube. You know, so is everybody lying about everything? I find that hard to believe. And then, of course, we got the Philadelphia experiment where they put those microwave transmitters around the ship, turn them on, brrr, and the whole ship disappears and reappears elsewhere on the planet, returns to the spot eventually, and some of the humans are half in and half out of the bulkhead. Like a steel wall, their legs would be on one side and their chest and body would be on the other. Horrific situation. And some of the other soldiers, sailors on those ships, had after effects, and they would be at their home with their family, and all of a sudden they would phase out, they would disappear. So they would go crazy. And then there was Malcolm, I think it was, who built a little Jacob's ladder, the two poles where they have that little electric thing arcing, and he dropped a penny or an ink pen through it, and then it reappeared across the room. And then he built a big one, and he jumped through it, and he went back in time. So there's plenty of evidence about this. H.G. Wells writing that book, and then they made a movie, The Time Machine. Oddities and other books I've gone over where whales appear on a beach in Kansas, and all kinds of other crazy things. So somehow, whether it's a lightning bolt or whatever in the ocean, it caused a vortex and sent the whale in time. And then, of course, there's stories of ghosts. Two sailors got asphyxiated in the hull of a big ship, and then so they died, and then of course they gave them a burial at sea. And the next thing you know, a couple sailors are at the bow of the ship looking over the side, and there's these two faces in the wave. And they got some other people, and other people saw the faces. So these two people who died were staying with the ship, and you could see their outline of their faces in the wave. So when the ship returned to port, the captain got a nice expensive camera, went back out to sea, and the faces were in the wave, and they took some pictures. And you got out-of-body experiences, children dying, and coming back and telling about the experience in the tunnel. Grown people getting in a car wreck, leaving their body, watching the whole thing where they take the guy's body, put it in a stretcher, put it in the ambulance, and here's the guy floating up here, following them in the hospital. They're giving him CPR to bring him back, and boom, he comes back and he remembers, he tells everybody what everybody said, and he was watching them from outside of his body. And I could go on. So is it so far-fetched to believe that there are angels? And we have all heard about UFOs and aliens and some of the characteristics of the descriptions. For example, the Greys, some of them were claimed to be able to walk straight through walls. And the reptilians, apparently half DNA. Got a bird behind me. Half DNA, human reptilian, apparently on this planet, who have extrasensory abilities and extrasensory knowledge about the real world that they keep from the rest of us. And these people with that special knowledge and their ability apparently to control interdimensional beings, angels, demons, etc., and kill other people, control other people, they've put themselves in an elite position on the planet to rule over the rest of us. And apparently sacrificing humans, which means you would kill the body and the spirit would be let loose. And maybe it's some kind of thing that the people on the other dimension want, those souls. Number one, we've all seen the movie where people sign their name in blood, and when they make a deal with the devil. And apparently also when they do sacrifice people, they wanted them to be in an extreme traumatic state, screaming for their life in total horror, which apparently releases some kind of hormone into the blood, which they collect in a bucket and they drink it, and apparently it gives them some kind of euphoric feeling, like they're on a drug, and some kind of ability to see in this other dimension like the shamans. So I would suspect that in this other dimensions, praying to God would be communicating in this other dimension. And angels and prophets have existed throughout history. So again, we'll almost have to conclude that yes, this other reality does exist. Yes, we are spiritual beings in these biological bodies. With all that said, it seems there's a choice right now. The New World Order. The all-seeing eye on this dollar bill, if you look at it, does not look like a human eye, looks like a reptilian eye. Novus Order Seclorum, New World Order. Anete Conceptus means a mission is complete. 13 steps up on that pyramid. 13 is also the number of the tarot deck for the death card. The witchcraft prayer beads have 13 stones. The ruins, the druid thing, have 13 stones. And 13 has a lot of significance. Friday the 13th. On the back of the dollar bill, there's 13, 13, 13, 13. And the taking out of the astrology, Aquarius, Pisces, Taurus, etc. There is a 13th constellation, Ophiuchus, which is the serpent. But why don't they have that on the astrological chart? Why did they take it out? They're trying to keep a secret. So, I was looking at the dollar bill. It's mentioned in this book. And if you look right here where my finger is, you're going to see a compass and a key and the scales of justice. In that little green thing, you can see the compass, the square, and the key and the scale of justice. Those are all Freemasonic symbols. Yes. If you look on top of where my finger is on this little 1, right on that little curved part of the 1, you've got a dollar bill, you can check it out. There is an owl. Apparently they worship some kind of god called Moloch, and if you go on Yahoo Images, you will see this gigantic cow or owl. Moloch comes in different animal shapes. And he has his arms open, and they're feeding him children to eat. And the Bohemian Grove in California, where a lot of presidents and CEOs and a lot of elitists, Kissinger, etc., Nixon have been. Nixon said it was the gosh darndest gay freak show he'd ever seen. You can see him saying that on some of the YouTube videos. But anyways, they have a gigantic owl named Moloch with a fire in the belly, and they throw a baby in there, and they call it the cremation of care. They dress up in long robes, and they ship naked, and they ship in gay men for some kind of homosexual satanic ritual. No women allowed. And Alex Jones snuck in there and video it. You can see that on some YouTube videos also. And also, like I said, on the dollar bill, you can look here and you'll see 13 feathers, 13 arrows, 13 leaves, 13 stripes, 13 stars. Then on the left side is 32 wings and 33 wings. The 2 degrees of high degrees of Freemasonry is 32nd degree and 33rd degree. So apparently, Moloch, the gigantic owl, or the cow, is also another symbol for Lucifer, the devil, Satan, who is known as the angel of light, and the reptilian known as the serpent. So on this pyramid, you have both symbols. The rays behind the serpent's eye. That would be the sun's rays behind the eye. So in the pagan religion, they had the sun god. So there's the sun god, the rays behind the eye. And the evil god is also called the serpent, and that is an eye of the serpent. And apparently the pyramid's not finished. It's incomplete. It needs to be finished. And that is part of the process of trying to bring about the New World Order. And 911 was a linchpin on that. They needed to be able to get the approval of the world's peoples and the money and the American people and the banksters and the politicians. So they did the false flag, blamed it on those people with box cutters over there in the Middle East. When they were from Saudi Arabia, I don't know why they attacked Iraq and Afghanistan. But it is a mission to Egypt, Saudi Arabia, Syria, under attack right now, insanely. The pictures are just horrific. If you see the bombing of the residential skyscraper buildings everywhere, in all those countries, relentless machine gun helicopters, cutting off water supplies. So the death rate is off the chart, all over those countries, all over the Middle East. And then if you go look up Greater Israel on the Yahoo image site, you'll see that they have an outline that they want to make Israel from the Euphrates in Iraq down to the Nile in Egypt, almost half as big as the United States almost. And it's prophesied that in the Bible that this would be the Zionism when these people would take over the world. They would have it from the Euphrates River in Iraq to the Nile. So 911 and all this stuff was planned on this supposedly Jewish religion. But then again, a lot of other Jews are opposed to this. If you go look up Zionism on the Yahoo image site, you'll see big billboards and posters and books written. That's where I got a lot of my information. So somebody really can't be anti-Semite, anti-Jewish, because you got the good Jews, so you're not anti-them if you're good, and you got the evil ones, but a lot of people have turned and joined with the Lucifer team, so they're supporting those reformed Jews in Israel who want to bring about this chaos and anarchy. Primordial, they want to take mankind back before he became domesticated. Even Hitler said he wanted to undomesticate mankind. And we've all heard the thing dumbed down of Americans and the controlling of the educational institutions, the medical institutions, the economic institutions, the agriculture, the farming, the stock market, the industrial, and all of it is interconnected and controlled by some few entities, again, that are into this religion of the reptilian and the sun's rays by the symbols and stuff I've been going over lately. So with all that said, and I know I've repeated it, and when I read these different books it shows up, so my point of repeating it again right now is to show it that it's all written again. And it's serious. The good news is, in this other realm, you do have a choice to go with signing your name in blood and making a deal with the devil, getting the chip in your hand or your forehead. They're already doing it with the credit cards. You got a little chip in that. Most people should already have the card with the new chip in it, and your other ones were turned off. So they're baby stepping this thing up. But you have a choice. You can say no and mentally look up at the sky and say, I believe that you did send Jesus, God, and he tried to teach the people to treat others how you want to be treated. I'm not trying to take this from a religious perspective. I'm just saying, if God created mankind, and then in 10 Commandments and prophets, he kept trying to tell mankind, this is the way you should behave. And a couple times in history, Sodom and Gomorrah, where the world, that part of that cities were destroyed. Tower of Babylon, those cities were destroyed. The great flood, Noah's flood, which is recorded by natives all over the world, when apparently these evil forces, interdimensional demonic beings, called angels or cherubs or other names, I have the pictures, have interbreeded with humanity and polluted God's creation, so he had to create these big floods, and even the sinking of Atlantis, and all this is mentioned in this stuff. New World Order, Theosophy, the Kabbalah, Hitler, Zionism, Rosicrucian, and witchcraft and Kabbalah. All of everything I'm saying is, if you read enough of the books, you find it here, you find it here, you find it there, you find it there. And I've been showing it over and over and over. So apparently, the power that be, God, can destroy things if it gets too polluted or too evil. And apparently, these evil folks know this. So it seems that they're mind-controlling and tempting and trying to brainwash people into going down the evil path. They know full well what God will do. That they want the people to be destroyed. They're beguiling the people. They're deceiving the people. Meanwhile, for all of us to see, they're physically preparing for some big event. FEMA camps, 450 million hollow point bullets, monitoring cameras and other systems, your computer, everything, everywhere. There's staging, like the Day of Rage a couple Fridays ago, or the planned events at the Republican conference and the Democratic conference, busing in and people driving in from Black Lives Matter to disrupt these conventions to choose a president. And of course they had it all planned where one side would be on this side of the street and the other group would be on, the supporters would be on this side of the street. And then they would march down and almost clash with each other, and they were anticipating and desiring chaos, anarchy, riots, and shootings, and so they can have an excuse, it appears, to, as a catalyst, to get everything going and everybody riled up in hatred, so they can declare martial law. That's one avenue. Another one, if it won't work, these people are desperate who are bringing this new world order about. A nuclear explosion in a harbor. And then they'll say maybe there's other containers that are on semi-tractor trailers crossing the country, so everything has to be stopped. And everything has to be investigated. And everybody is suspect. Martial law declared, and everybody has to get microchips so we can monitor where everybody goes. That's another choice. World War III could be declared. And it looks like they have the little shenanigans going on between the USA and China right now, and the shenanigans going on with the threats with Putin right now in Russia. And it would all be fabricated. They don't really hate each other, these people at the top. The Chinese are communists, Russia's communist, and they want to make the United States communist. But they have to get past the people. They've got to convince the people to go along. And so little bit by little bit, the propaganda goes on and on and on. Shootings, we got to get rid of guns, assault weapons, while the government is arming up and ammoing up. And we're running out of water, we're running out of food. Meanwhile, they're using the HARP transmitters, the microwave transmitters located all over the world. You can look this stuff up. And other kinds of microwave transmission systems. CERN with its bizarre activities. And I think that they're really heating up the atmosphere with all those heavy metals they spray. And those heavy metals are inside us, so it does affect the human, our mood, we can make us full of rage, or probably kill us if they heat it up enough. So there seems to be this big plan. So I'm going to start out with chapter 17. Adolf Hitler, Satanist. Now, I don't believe everything I read. I read books and I report. And I think if I read enough material, I can kind of come to some conclusions. Yes? No? All right, here we go. Page 128. Another individual who joined a secret society was Adolf Hitler, the head of the Nazi Socialist Party in Germany. He joined a secret society called the Thule Society. So all these things, the Freemasons, Illuminati, Knights of Malta, Knights of Columbus, Bohemian Grove, Club of Rome, Bilderberger Groups, Council of Foreign Relations, Heritage Foundation, Rosicrucians, Kabbalah, Zionism, Jesuits. There's hundreds and hundreds of secret societies. The background of all of them I am discovering is like the eye here, is the cast out angel from heaven, the serpent called Satan or Lucifer. And the pagan means many gods, and they've also Osiris, Horus, Isis, Ra, Maitreya, Murdoch, what do they call it? Marduk. And so all these secret societies just have a different spin and different flavor depending upon where you are in the world. So they have thousands of these organization societies. He joined a secret society called the Thule Society, termed the secret prime mover of Nazism. So all this stuff, just like the Black Lives Matter and the Teabag Political Action Group, and all these things, it's sponsored by people with money, and the people who join, generally speaking, probably have sincere motives, but the people who are using them do not have sincere motives, and they're trying to get everybody to fight each other, which is what they are doing even in the Middle East with the Sunnis against the Shiites. The divide and conquer tactic has been used by the evil peoples of the world in recorded history. It is a rare historian who has written about the importance of this group or the fact that Hitler joined it. It is in the Thule Society that one has to look for the real inspiration of Nazism. But a fragment of a much more important secret society as the Germanic Order founded in 1912. They had gathered together certain lodges of the Prussian Freemasonry, as well as a number of openly anti-Semitic associations. Only reading my highlighted portions, as you know. I support the people who published this book and the author. Go buy the book if you want to read it all. I'm trying to get a message out there that I think is important. The committee and the 40 original members of the new German Workers' Party were all drawn from the most powerful occult society in Germany, the Thule Society. So the occult, in my opinion, if you want to understand it in your mind, is just witchcraft. They know how to use, they know more than we know about these interdimensional beings. They know how to control them, and they use them for selfish purposes, whether it's sexual deviancy or power or wealth or whatever. So if they want somebody's factory, they can probably arrange for that somebody to die. The inner core within the Thule Society were all Satanists who practiced black magic. So they're into the occult, they practice black magic. Another writer on the Thule Society is Joseph Carr, who had written the book entitled The Twisted Cross. And I must say, just this author is so good. Where my finger is, you'll see some tiny little numbers. Right there. Those are called citations, and I'm not trying to talk down to anybody. But in the back of this book, the little number there tells you where he sourced the book and the page, like I do. That's why I do book reviews, and I show you the book and the page. So in the back of this book are all the books where his information came from, and the famous author and the page number, Conspiracy Against God and Man, page 5758, for example. Freemasonry Exposed, page III 3. So this author sources everything, well-known, written several books. So entitled The Twisted Cross, Joseph Carr. The inner group which controlled the Thule Society contained men who were self-confessed Luciferians. So I keep mixing up here. Satanism, Luciferianism, black magic, occult, and all these organizations include the Nazi Party, the Republican Party here in the United States, the Democratic Party. If anybody doesn't know, they should know. By now, any person who looks into anything should know that both of those parties are controlled by the same people. And most of the politicians, they wouldn't be down there at Washington if they weren't involved in one Masonic group or lodge or organization or another, like George Bush coming from the Skull and Bones. John Kerry coming from the Skull and Bones. So these Skull and Bones, if you have read into that, and I've gone over some material in the books, they all swear allegiance to these organizations and to obey the leadership, just like in Freemasonry, Rosicrucian, and everything else, under threat of death. And apparently their god is Lucifer on the dollar bill, the eye, the reptilian. In the Bible, we all know about the serpent beguiling Adam and Eve to eat the apple from the tree of knowledge, which God said, do not eat of. All right, so the evidence is that Hitler himself became a Luciferian. He had absorbed the work of the tragic philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche. I'm saying it wrong, I'm sure. Right there where my finger is. Let's see, can I see my finger? Right there. Center of this video, there's his name. So apparently they promote this concept called nihilism, that nothing matters. And if you talk to people everywhere now, when I go down to the jazz club or the blues club, or when I go downtown, see my friends, a lot of people don't want to have this conversation I have making these videos. People will downright tell you they don't care. They don't care they're killing all the Syrians right now. They don't care the government's building FEMA camps. They don't care the government buys 450 hollow point bullets. They don't care they're spying on everybody. They don't care that they're planning world slavery and take away everybody's rights except for their divine right to rule. And they want to kill off a huge portion of the population. They don't care. They've been so mind-controlled and brainwashed. You may as well call 85% of the people on the planet zombies. But luckily, some people are waking up. So Hitler became a Luciferian, absorbed with the works of the tragic philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche, whose powerful dissertation on the genealogy of morals, sought to make a reevaluation of all values. So the genealogy of morals, God's Ten Commandments, and make a reevaluation of all values, which we all see they are reevaluating, and now anything goes. They're even trying to lower the age of consent for children to have sex with adults, pedophilia, and adultery, and promoting pansexualism with anything, by homosexuality, bisexuality. They're trying to normalize deviant behavior. And for the record, should anybody accuse me of hating or thinking anything ill of gay people, I do not hate gay people. My whole life, gay people have been around. This is not about that. This is about billions of dollars being spent by the United Nations, bringing out all this reevaluation of values, and using the gay people and that whole situation as a tool to demoralize and to eliminate people's consideration that we should listen to God, destroy Christianity. This is all plan of bringing about the worship of the Luciferian age, Satan. So I don't hate gay people. I've got people I know that are gay. I've got friends whose friends are gay. But I do not like the propaganda coming from out of the United Nations, UNESCO, even trying to put up the Archway of Baal, B-A-A-L, in New York and London, and 1,000 others everywhere, and CERN, the collider, opening up portals with the statue of Shiva out front, the goddess of destruction. And I could tell you more, you know that I know about all these satanic things going on. Madonna, Lady Beyonce, Lady Gaga, Katy Perry, with the satanic rituals during the Super Bowl halftime shows, Emmys, Grammys, BET Awards, the TV programming, with all the monstrous portrayals of humans. We all know about this stuff. Hunger Games, Divergent. So this particular religion, Luciferianism, they won a dissertation on the genealogy of morals and sought to make a revaluation of all values. The proof that the so-called evil was good and what was habitually believed to be good was evil. So what they want to do, according to this author on page 129, smarter guy than me, is they want good to be evil and evil to be good. And so they're trying to demonize the Bible right now. And anybody who believes in the Bible, where it says there in numerous places that man should not lie with man as he lies with a woman, they want to call you a bigot and a hater. And they'll probably come up with some pretty tough penalties for being accused of that in some countries now, like beheading people even. This is a bad day coming for the planet if we let it. Here is that thought again that the God of the Bible is evil, and somehow the God considered to be evil is good. And that is what was needed with the re-evaluation of morals. In other words, that which has been taught by the biblical good God has to be eliminated, and a new system substituted therefore. So that sums up what's going on if people are not aware. This author's got it right on the head. And when did he write this book? First printing was in 1990. And he says here, Ralph Epperson, the book you're about to read was completed in 1989 and was based upon the research that I have done for 27 years. All of the signs that I was reading about indicated that the New World Order was scheduled to start about January 1, 2000. This obviously did not happen on that date. However, that does not mean that my research was incorrect. It means that another date has been selected and that this date has truly been kept secret from honest researchers such as myself. Let me impress upon you, these people are committed to achieving their goal. The New World Order will occur, but at a future date. Let me add that I still believe that this date is very near the author. And I might point out too, in my studies, and I'm going to do more book reviews and expose this, but no matter whether I'm even reading about the Theophist Society, Helena Blavatsky, Alice Bailey, Annie Besant, and mysticism, Kabbalah by many authors, Rosicrucianism, Freemasonry, even the Zionism and the Talmud and the Jewish books. All of them acknowledge that Jesus did exist. Because there's a lot of people out there who have been buying up the program, that program and propaganda that they tell me that it's all mythology and it was all fake. That's because they want you ignorant. But all of them in these secret societies that I have read and that you'll see, they don't argue the point that Jesus exists. We know that the calendar, 2016, is 2016 years since Jesus' birth. And the moral code, even for the U.S. Constitution, was Christian. And so much. And all the biblical things about rebuilding King Solomon's temple, and the Zionist Jewish people's current hatred for Christians and Jesus because they had him crucified, is still ever alive. They hate Christians. They want to destroy Christians more than they want to do anything. Remember, they're the ones who had the Son of God killed. And not all Jewish people today hate Christians and have turned towards Jesus. And of course, the bulk of Jewish people, as well as Christian people, are not the evildoers or the good doers. They're secular in the middle. All they want to do is be citizens and be left alone. And regrettably, that's called being lukewarm. You're not choosing the left or the right. And it's probably bad for all of us that those people don't pick a side and help stop this new world order. Pick the good side. But if you talk to the evil people, they'll say they're the good side. And you should be able to do anything. You should be able to rape a child. You should be able to rape a woman. You should be able to rape an animal. You should be able to rape a man walking down the street or a little boy. That's freedom. That's liberty. That's what they think. And it's quoted in these books. I'm not making it up. It's tough for me to read this stuff and believe it. But, when I see authors who have spent 27 years of their life and published several books and well known, in Hitler's observations published under the title Hitler Speaks, one can rediscover the important role played by Germany Freemasonry as a model for esoteric structuring of the Nazi Party. Just like so many other secret societies, the Thule Society had an esoteric structuring that must have meant that there were two classes of members: those who knew what the secret was and those who didn't. The man who played the most important role in Hitler's life was Dietrich Eckart, spiritual founder of Nazism. Just reading my highlighted portions. Adolf Hitler himself considered Eckhart as the most important influence in his life. And it's got a little citation where this author got the information from. It is known that Eckhart had experimented with numerous drugs in an attempt to reach higher consciousness. It is now being discovered that Hitler also attempted the same thing. So these people take these drugs to experience a higher consciousness. And I did go over the book there with Carlos Castienda, Separate Reality, and I'm going to go over more of that material. But this thing about seeing this other world apparently is quite real and has existed forever. All right, moving on. Hitler attained higher levels of consciousness by means of drugs and made a penetrating study of medieval occultism and ritual magic. Eckhart has been called a dedicated Satanist and the central figure in the powerful and widespread circle of occultists, the Thule Society. But he also believed in the future appearance of the Lord Maitreya, the hoped-for New Age Messiah. Eckhart participated in a series of seances with two Russian generals who had their who had left their native land to come to Germany. During these seances, Eckhart and his associates were told that the imminent appearance of the German Messiah, a Lord Maitreya. Wow. And he deliberately guided the career of Hitler into the occult world of Satan and Lucifer worship. When he lay dying, he told those gathered at his bedside, this is Eckhart, "Follow Hitler, he will dance, but it is I who have called the tune. I have initiated him into the secret doctrine." Remember, we're going over Helena Blavatsky's The Secret Doctrine, the apparently New Age religion controlling or involved with the United Nations. So Eckhart says he has initiated Hitler into the secret doctrine. So when I read Morals and Dogma by the Freemasons by Albert Pike, or I read The Secret Doctrine, or Isis Unveiled, or Kabbalah, or so much of this Theophist material, Alice Bailey, Annie Besant, the Lucifer magazine, the New Age magazine by the Freemasons, it all matches. We're coming to a common denominator. I'm coming to a common denominator in my 11 years of study. The secret doctrine opened his centers in vision and given him the means to communicate with the powers. Just like I went over that Carlos Castaneda in the separate reality. We're going to go over more of that. We get a better viewpoint of what this... I'm not doing a 6-6. I'm just doing my hand, I guess. You gotta be careful because people go, he just did 666. But some of us do this when they point our hand together. We don't mean that. Anyways, I'm trying to get a better picture of what this secret reality is. And maybe it is the 666. Appears so. Eckhart claimed that his fellow adepts in the Thule Society claimed to his fellow adepts in the Thule Society that he had personally received a kind of satanic annunciation, meaning announcement, that he was destined to prepare the vessel of the Antichrist, the man inspired by Lucifer, to conquer the world and lead the Aryan race to glory. And another of the links to the Thule Society was Lucifer worship in an emblem chosen as the symbol of the Nazi Party itself, the swastika. There are two forms of the symbol, one with its arms bent to the left and one with the arms bent to the right. Swastika. The former is universal, a symbol of good, while the latter is universally a symbol for evil. So it depends on how you make the swastika, which way it rotates. One is good, one is evil. Hitler personally selected the final design of the Nazi blood flag, the one carrying the swastika, as an emblem representing the Nazi Party. He reversed the swastika from the one proposed to the form that represents evil. Hitler had a model to base his selection on. The swastika was the symbol of the Thule Society, its official insignia. Manly P. Hall, in his book entitled Lectures on Ancient Philosophy, so Manly P. Hall was a leading Freemason, a famous Freemason, and he's discussing and studying lectures on ancient philosophy. So we can see how all this stuff, the all-seeing eye on the dollar bill, the Egyptian pyramids, all this stuff, it's leading somewhere into this new world religion. The swastika is the whirling cross that represents the centralizing motion of the eternal all. One of the original founders of the Thule Society, Rudolf von Steppendorf, linked the swastika with another symbol, the sun, when he made this statement on November of 1918. I intend to commit to the Thule Society. I intend to commit the Thule Society to this combat. I swear it on this swastika, on this sign which for us is sacred, in order that you hear it, O magnificent sun. So the swastika was a symbol of the Thule Society. It was a symbol for the Nazi Party. It was somehow connected to the symbol of the sun god, and the sun god was a symbol of Lucifer. Get it? Got it? And those who resisted the symbol of the swastika and all it represented had to pay for it with the supreme sacrifice on the bloody altar of war. So when they bring this new age religion to the world, as prophesied, the bloody sacrifices of the people who won't swear allegiance to Lucifer is by beheading. And if you look this up on the computer, apparently the U.S. government has purchased 30,000 or 35,000 guillotines, which are spread throughout the United States. And so the United States is controlled by these Luciferians, and they hate God. Remember the 1/3 of the angels, which are like cherubs or spiritual beings, were cast out of heaven for revolutionary activities in heaven, going against God, wanting to be God, wanting to take God's throne. And they don't want you to believe in God or me to believe in God. 50 million people died in World War I. 50 million people sacrificed to the religion of Lucifer. So they got the Holocaust Museum in the United States for these 6 million Jewish people, and more money is being spent on that, and apparently it's going to be some kind of organization like the Smithsonian, and it's off limits to people. So some kind of like I guess you could call it a Supreme Court to the Zionist Illuminati types who worship Lucifer. All because the historians who write the accidental view of history somehow were unable to determine that Adolf Hitler had joined a Luciferic cult named the Thule Society some 16 years before the war started. All this stuff is planned. World War I was planned, World War II was planned, the Vietnam War was planned, World War III, if it's not already here, is planned. FEMA camps, 450 million hollow point bullets the government bought. Legislation, activities, threats of water crises, food crises, economic crises, and agitating the people with the decadent propaganda, knowing full well people will reject it. Not that all the people hate gay people. This is going to come back in the face of the gay people. They're trying to create so much animosity between the different groups. That's the intention. That's how they do revolutionary activities. Divide and conquer. The same thing with Black Lives Matter. They want to create the agitation between the whites and the blacks. And the stupid whites and blacks, many people will fall for it. And including the straights and the gays, many people will fall for it. It's coming out of the United Nations, along with global warming and everything else. New world order, new age. It's all on these pages and more. But remember, those who write the accidental view of history do not believe that conspirators plan wars inside secret societies. And they certainly do not believe that Lucifer is a being that is worshipped by secret societies. So nobody believes this stuff. So they're talking about Maitreya. So I thought I would look into Maitreya a little bit and get back to this book. Well, if you've been watching my videos, you know I have lots of books. So I got a couple on this. I thought I'd look at them. The Reappearance of the Christ. That's not Jesus Christ. Christ means anointed one. So when you say Jesus Christ, it's Jesus, the anointed one. This doesn't say Jesus. So an anointed one is coming. And the Masters of Wisdom. Doesn't this guy just look adorable? Benjamin Cream. And look at the interesting design, New Age kind of colors and stuff. Benjamin Cream. Let me just read the back of this book for a second. The Christ is here now as the world teacher for all humanity. And the information, if the information in this book is correct, we are about to witness the most profound changes in human history. From the esoteric background of the Alice Bailey, there we go, Helenita Blavatsky, Annie Besant, the people who were controlling the Lucifer magazine and the Theosophist Society, the teachings of the New Cosmology. The esoteric background of Alice Bailey teachings further informed and trained in telepathy by a perfected master, Benjamin Cream, writes with the conviction and authority of direct experience. He gives new, up-to-date information about the re-emergence into the world now of the masters of wisdom, those illumined men who for a millennia have guided humanity's evolution. At their head is Maitreya, the Christ, who, the author states, will soon reveal himself as the world teacher to guide us into the new age of sharing and justice for all. Well, what's that got to do with raping women and children and pansexualism, homosexuality, sodomy, and child sacrifice, blood sacrifices, 9/11, World War III, and destruction of Christianity, and probably persecuting and prosecuting those people who are Christians. Anyways, I'll read here some more. Just asking, FYI. Benjamin Cream has been lecturing publicly on the reappearance of the Christ since 1974. Remember 1965 to 75, 74, they wrote all those books about too many people on planet Earth, overpopulation, running out of oil, running out of water, running out of food. Fear-mongering, back in 75 and 65. They had to gain more power, so they had to create fear and problems that they could come in and take over and take charge. So, a vast range of questions is covered from the esoteric view of the Christ and the Turin Shroud to the problems of the developing world, here we go, and a new economic order, here we go. What's that got to do with everything? I think it's a disguise for the plot to rule humanity by some people who think they are more divine. From UFOs and Atlantis to healing and meditation, the answers give us a unique insight into the happenings of our time. So if you see me with my hands doing this, I'm sitting outside and there's bugs out here and you got to scratch your legs or shake a bug off you. I watched my video and I'm saying, well, what's he doing down there? It's bugs outside. It's hot out here and there's bugs. It is a clear answer to the prophets of doom, a message of hope for mankind. Well, these people who are doing all this stuff in secret under threat of death, why is it all in secret? Why are they trying to destroy Christianity? Why do they want to do the opposite of the Ten Commandments? Here we go. The Antichrist, the forces of evil. Page 97. Remember, the New World Order, this is all the religion of the Hitlerians and the Zionisms. Remember, the people who financed Hitler, according to many books, one in particular I'll go over, Suzanne and James Poole, who financed Hitler. It was the New York Zionist, Jewish, Rockefeller, Rothschild, and Illuminati banksters, who are all over the world. Hitler would have never come to power if it weren't for them. Where'd they get all the fuel and the weapons and technologies? These people who want to bring about a new world order set all that stuff up, just like in 1888, something like that. Albert Pike wrote to his friend in Italy, Mazzini, that there would be required 3 world wars to bring about a new world order. So it's all about serving this kind of divine being that they're in communication with meditation and drugs and occult witchcraft sciences. So here we go, the Antichrist, the forces of evil. Page 97. The Antichrist is the first will. The Antichrist is the first or will aspect of God. So they're saying this Antichrist is another face of God in its destructive form. So apparently God can be nice and God can be evil. And that's the New Age teaching. It is that which destroys in order to prepare the way for the building aspect. So for them to build this new utopia, I'm thinking Professor Higger in the Jewish utopia, or the Protocols of Zion. Oh my God, if you go read either one of those books, plus many more, the Talmud, Zohar, Kabbalah, they want a Jewish utopia. They want a world utopia for sure. But the rest of the world has to either die or be a submitting, worshiping slave to these people. They're not God. They would have you believe they are. Which is the Christ aspect. So they want to destroy in order to build. That's the Christ aspect. It is that which breaks down and destroys the old to prepare the new forms of the incoming energy, the building energy, so that the Christ aspect can manifest. And how many people do I talk to these days who really believe there's no such thing as God, definitely reject Christianity and Jesus, and you read all this stuff by the people who actually rule the world and their satanic and Luciferic religion, so you know all these people who don't believe in God and are not part of these people are just so fed up with it and programmed by the TV and magazines and culture that their thinking has been subtracted from the whole equation. They're not thinking, and it's going to be bad for them, the planet. We're all spiritual beings. We need to think. Our thoughts create our reality, and they want us to think that there's no such thing as sin. People have bought this stuff, hook, line, and sinker. That is what is happening now. This Antichrist force has worked out through the war from 1914 to 1945. So they're saying from beginning of World War I to the end of World War II, they're calling it just one gigantic war. And in my opinion, that'll include World War III. It could happen today, next month. This is 2016. It could go on to 2020. So then it would be from 1914 to 2020 would be the Great War. So it would have taken them all those years, one gigantic war that they call World War I, World War II, World War III, in order to obtain their control of the planet for the Luciferic divine being, also called the Maitreya. The reappearance of the Christ. And in his other book, Benjamin Crane, he clearly calls it Maitreya. Messages from Maitreya the Christ. Benjamin Crane. Yeah, it's right here on the top. 1980, Benjamin Crane. Messages from the Maitreya. So you got to be quick on this stuff to just catch what's going on. So the war from the hierarchical point of view was one war, 1914 and 1945. So from this hierarchical point of view, they're probably still at war right now. That's why all these things have been happening, including 9/11. There is a war against mankind going on. That war was precipitated to the physical plane from the astral planes, where it had been going on since Atlantean times, like I said. If we look at Atlantis, we look at the Great Flood, We look at the Tower of Babylon, we look at Sodom and Gomorrah, and probably many more times in history. Apparently, the good God has destroyed the goings-on of the evil people. Between the forces of light and the forces of darkness, the evolutionary and the involutionary forces, the hierarchy and the materialistic forces of this planet, the war between them and Atlantis, called the hierarchy, who before then had worked openly, outwardly in the world as the priest kings and godlike beings who gave men the Atlantean civilization. This is what they want to build again. But they have to tear down the world we have. And in those realities, they had priest kings, the divine people who would rule over everybody else like a slave. Just like the Zionist Jewish and Talmudic Jewish, Zohar and all, those people call us goy or goyim, which means cattle. They really think we're all cattle. In the Freemasonic material, they call us profane. H.G. Wells called us animals not to be trusted. So the elites think that of us. To become occult, esoteric, and working only from the higher mental planes. By the defeat of the Axis powers in the war from 1939 to 1945, the forces of evil of the planet, which is the evil of all mankind, not simply the Axis powers, were defeated. So they say that during World War II, the evil forces were defeated. Nothing could be further from the truth. This stuff, to me, seems to be the evil forces. These people promoting the New Age, deceiving all of us with all that propaganda, including the gay marriage issue and all the other sexual deviance issue, transgenderism, and so on. It's all a distraction, meant to incite anger and hatred, and arguments and fighting and chaos. A lot of people are going to resist this. A lot of people are knowledgeable. They're even microchipping people, even microchipping our credit card now. And they've already done it and spying on everybody and plotting against us. Certain leaders in Nazi Germany, Japan, and to a much lesser extent in Italy, focused on in themselves the energy which we call the Antichrist. But it is an energy, it is not a being, not an individual. It is preparing the way. It is the destructive force of God himself which prepares the way for the Christ. So they're saying God is preparing us for this Antichrist. I highlighted another portion on this, just FYI. China and the plan. Not trying to do book reviews on this, I will. I just wanted to do a little excerpt from it. There is a very large part of the world where the economic changes you are talking about have already taken place. Remember, they talk to these divine beings, such as the People's Republic of China. Where does all this fit into the plan? 21/12/1976. Benjamin Cream says, it fits in very much. Whatever of significance happens, whatever of significance happens in any country, it all happens under the inspiration of the hierarchy. The Zionist Illuminati Mystery School of Babylon, all the lodges and temples and cults and witchcraft organizations. Under the inspiration of hierarchy, according to Benjamin Cream. I believe him. There is an entire department in the hierarchy, the Department of the Manu, which deals with the politics of the world. So we've seen what has happened, and they're taking responsibility for it happening. I can't say that I'm too happy with all those people in Syria being bombed to smithereens today, yesterday, and tomorrow. Iraq, Afghanistan, Egypt, Northern Africa, Central Africa, Ukraine, Central America, Venezuela right now, Brazil going into the financial collapse right now, and they're planning and looming in the future for the United States of America and Europe to go into economic collapse. So this hierarchy is claiming responsibility for this. Again, the Illuminati, Freemasons, Rosicrucians, Zionism, Jesuits, Kabbalah, Knights of Columbus, Knights of Malta, Bilderberger, Bohemian Grove, Club of Rome, and hundreds more of these secret societies, which we will see, which deals with the politics of the world, the great movements of the races, the building of the races, the forming of the nations, the destinies of nations, the working out of the political, the governmental, and racial divisions of humanity. Great experiments are going on in China and Russia. 1976, this book. I remember in Russia and China, they killed, in Russia, maybe 100 million or more Christians and destroyed Christian temples and other good people. In China, they killed millions, maybe 100 more million, bringing about the communist world order. And then when Russia broke up as a communist nation, so they say, they gave away all the resources to these elites, apparently Zionist Jewish folks. Give a whole country to private businessmen who are probably doing their bidding. And they're not responsible to take care of the people like the Russian government was. So it was just a switcheroo. Even the capitalist system is under the control of these illumined hierarchies. You know, we've seen charts where all the studies were done, like over there at the Swiss university, where all the corporations, they used huge computers and figured all this out, are all being controlled by a small elite group. Great experiments are going on in China and Russia, America and Great Britain. One of the most interesting today is what is happening in China. It is still very fluid. It is watched with extreme interest by the hierarchy and could still go in many directions, well or not so well. The changes which have taken place have had traumatic, chaotic effects in China. For example, the Great Cultural Revolution. Cultural Revolution, where Mao killed millions and millions of people who resisted communism. That seems what they're going to do in the United States and Europe. They want to call it a great cultural revolution. In America and Britain today, many social changes are opposed by finance rather than by decree. But the result is the same. We are all moving toward a more perfect expression of the governmental and political systems that we live under. And again, I'm going to say it again. If they can't control a city, and they can't control a state, and all over the world things are collapsing, how can they control the world? And their method of control seems to be domination and murder. And they live large. And they think there's too many people on the planet, FYI. I don't think there's too many people on the planet in the terms of water or sustainability, fuel or food. I think it's too many people on the planet that they can't control and that they don't need. In the future, not too distant future, we will come to see that all political systems are divine expressions. There is more in common between true democracy, when the media is controlled by the Illuminati bankster elite types, and they can put information on there that people believe and become mind-controlled zombies. That's not democracy to me, when you're lying and deceiving the people and beguiling them with temptation and free money, food stamps that you can take away anytime you want, and money to pay their rent, and drugs and alcohol. A friend of mine told me that apparently in Mount Pleasant, North Carolina, there's an epidemic of heroin addictions. Who's he to think's supplying all that, destroying our country? There is a more in common between true democracy and true communism than there would seem to be today. So they're saying it right here. Communism will be their kind of democracy, which they will force on the people, telling people that capitalism is evil, and they control it all. They're making it evil so that people will believe they're going to solve the problem. And they're not going to solve the problem in the favor of the people. They'll solve the problem in the favor of themselves to create their new world order where they become divine people who want to be worshipped. And they enjoy murdering, enslaving, and controlling, and dominating, and raping children and women and men, etc. And nobody else gets to own anything or grow or whatever. You're going to have to be happy to get the crumbs they give you if they pull off what they're trying to pull off. What is called communism today, as it exists in Russia, 1976, China and the communist world, is in no sense true communism, but it is an evolving structure moving toward a more perfect expression of the thought form as it exists in the divine mind, likewise with democracy. Did you hear what I just said? Now back to the book. Because he mentioned Maitreya in this book, Ralph Epperson, thought we ought to take a little peek at Maitreya and see what they're planning on doing. This reappearance of the Christ, the New Age reality, liberty for all. You can be gay, you can kill, you can steal, you can have sex with children and rape women. Why not? Some people enjoy raping women. I read that in some of these books. Who are we? Who is God to tell them they can't enjoy themselves? Raping children. Alright, it just upsets me so much that people are not aware of this stuff. And sincere people like this guy has spent 27 of his years of his life probably under a great deal of stress and problems because of his research. Like many of the other authors in the books I've gone over. Just because they put a pretty picture on the front of the book doesn't mean it's a good book. And just because some interdimensional spiritual being contacts you or talks to you doesn't mean he's a good being. Could be one of those 1/3 of the angels that were cast out of heaven and want revenge against God. And in the case of the Zionist Jewish people, Pharisees who were controlling the world, who had Jesus crucified, they would like to destroy the Christians and have that whole thing erased from history to kill the Son of God. So terrible, the situation. Here's another chapter, chapter 18, The Great Seal. I'm not trying to read this book. I just want to try to make a point with this information. For more than 3,000 years, secret societies have labored to create the background of the necessary knowledge to the establishment of an enlightened democracy among the nations of the world. An enlightened democracy. All have continued, and they still exist, as the Order of the Quest. Thus wrote Manly P. Hall, the 33-degree Mason, in his book, The Secret Destiny of America. The thought that America has a secret destiny will probably startle those not familiar with the secret societies and their plans for America and the world. But that is the claim made by Mr. Hall in his book. He informed his readers that he saw this order coming to America. Now remember, these occultists go into meditative states and can communicate with other beings or maybe see the future. So they see something coming and they're warning us. We've seen all the signs, the TV movies and symbols and pyramids and devil signs by the presidents and the Pope, the 666 signs. Apparently Trump kept doing that. And all of them do it. And it's when 2 or 3 people are all doing it at the same time, standing there behind the president, it's pretty weird. It's not an accident like me going like this. These men are bound by secret oath. The Order of the Quest. Page 134. Was set up in America before the middle of the 17th century, meaning sometime between 1625 and 1675. So we know by the Washington, D.C. street plan, which is a gigantic owl, and a broken star, which apparently is occultic. I'll be going over these things. I'm learning more as I go. It's too bizarre. But the only name he mentioned as being involved in the Order of the Quest was that of Benjamin Franklin, one of the America's founding fathers. Benjamin Franklin spoke of the Order of the Quest. And most of the men who worked with him in the early days of the American Revolution were also members. He further identified most of these men, those men, as being not only members of the order, but also Freemasons as well. Remember, this series is named Freemasonry and Satanism, and we are certainly seeing the use of those two words in this book, The New World Order, by Ralph Epperson. Not only were many of the founders of the United States government Masons, but they received aid from a secret and august body existing in Europe, the Illuminati, the controllers of the bank, the Rothschilds. So even people in this country now who are in control of industry and big companies and things like that, they have access to the kinds of money most of us will never have access to. So they control our planet, and they're part of this conspiracy. The lending institutions would probably not give anybody else, like me, a Christian, the kind of money to have a big corporation, or put, like Tex Mars says in a pamphlet he sent me years ago, which I didn't believe, that the CEO of most of these major companies were Jewish people. And I said, that's crazy. They only constitute less than 2% of the people. How can they all be CEOs of these corporations? And as we know with the Obama administration and then Bush and so forth, Woodrow Wilson, throughout American history, apparently these Jewish people, Zionist, Jewish, dual citizens, etc., 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 are in control of everything. And Illuminati types coming out of the lodges. All of them worshiping this occult, Kabbalah, Luciferic religion. The common denominator is there for anyone who wants to see it and look for it. Seek and ye shall find. So these people, all these founders and all these other people, received aid from a secret and august body existing in Europe, the Illuminati. This book is 1976 by a well-known author, and he's using the word Illuminati. It's just another word for Freemasonry, which helped them to establish this country for a particular purpose known only to the initiated few. So a secret society, or several secret societies, decided that America would be fertile ground for the establishment of a new society, or as Mr. Hall called it, of a particular purpose. It can be known that those who created the Constitution of the United States and its resulting government were not connected to the Order of the Quest. Those who created the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution of the United States created perhaps the finest documents ever penned by men. Lest we forget, President John Quincy Adams, in his book, Letters on Freemasonry, that I've gone over, and I'll go over again, said back then there wasn't a party called the Democrats and the Republicans. There were two parties, the Masons and the Anti-Masons, and the Anti-Masons were predominantly Christians. So it was the Christians who created the Declaration of Independence and Constitution of the United States. It's important to keep that in mind. And they're trying to destroy the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence and disarm we Americans, which is guaranteed to us by the Second Amendment, our right to bear arms. And you've seen some of the material I've gone over in my New World Order series of media and press releases. I've got much more supporting data of the propaganda that's coming out there, that guns are bad, we need to take away guns, and gay rights are good, and the Christians are bigots and haters, and we're running out of food, we're running out of water, we're running out of money, we're deep in debt, and they're sending all these people from the Middle East to America and Europe, and with a religion that's really not compatible with Christianity, causing more agitation and problems. And when they ship all the jobs in manufacturing to China, more competition for the jobs, creating more agitation, more problems. And they got the HAARP transmitters in the sky spraying of chemicals. So those heavy metals dumped in the sky get in your blood. They got these microwave transmitters that they can turn on that match the frequencies of those little fibers in your body, heavy metals, and it can just start changing your whole metabolism, making you go crazy. And they're into MK Ultra and Montauk Project, stuff I've gone over, and I'm going to go over it again, where they're becoming very proficient and experts at mind control. Even via the TV, computers, the media, people hearing words, controlling the brain, the chip in your wallet and your card that they want to put on your wrist. And a lot of people are already microchipped. A lot of TIs out there, targeted individuals. The experiments are going on. I went over that, where they're driving around with trucks in Washington State and turning them on and experimenting on the population. Leonard Horowitz wrote a couple books. AIDS, Ebola, Leonard Horowitz, and the other one, Leonard Cole, about the army and the governments spraying chemicals in the subway systems and viruses and plagues and experimenting on we the people. What gives them the right to do that? This makes me mad that they're working against us every day while we're working so hard to try to take care of ourselves and support ourselves. We have an enemy that's trying to make that harder and harder. I talked to a friend of mine today. He said, it just seems like you have to work so hard trying to make ends meet, and it's getting harder and harder. And I said, it's all intentional. They don't want you to be paying attention to what they're doing in Syria, what they're doing in the United States. Try to approach one of those FEMA camps or many other places they have. You're going to run into a soldier with a high-powered weapon, and they don't want you to have a weapon of any kind. Even in nations under totalitarian communism, where freedom of the press is either non-existent or in nearly total control of the government, people know that America did something that only a few other societies in the past had ever done. It had created a true free republic. And we had a true, again, not trying to do 666, we had a true republic, but the people who get into Congress and House of Representatives and this presidency and other positions of power were conned, like Woodrow Wilson in 1913, who worked with these Illuminati banksters to create the Federal Reserve, which is not federal or USA at all. It's controlled by those Zionist, Illuminati, Jewish folks in Europe, the Illuminati banksters. So they took over the country in 1913 with the financial thing. After, 1776, we were a republic. And I think in 1880-something, there was a bankruptcy in the United States, and apparently few people are aware of this. But when these people sign contracts with these lenders, they're selling us out, and they're using us as collateral, and our nation as collateral. That's how they get the money. They make deals that we're not aware of. And they worship Lucifer, and they hate Christianity. Think about that. Founding fathers were Christians, and as it says in this book, created the finest documents penned by men. And these evil forces would have all those documents destroyed and have everybody run around with a guilt complex, thinking that they were the cause of global warming with all their pollution and waste and consumption, when they have controlled the world all along. So who's to blame, the people in control or the people? Let's say the planners set the stage well. And the game is not over. Free people do not conspire. So we know that these secret societies swear an oath under threat of death not to reveal the goings-on to the rest of us. So this author says, it is possible to create a free government. We had one. And the United States was great. But we can't say it's not great now or it is great, because I don't even think it is the United States now. It's a big corporation. But run by these elites who are into sexual deviancies, child trafficking, human trafficking. I'll be going over that stuff. I ordered another valuable book. Kathy O'Brien, the Illuminati sex slave and her daughter, tells all. I ordered that yesterday. And I got another one. So I'll be going over some of this stuff that they're into that's pretty darn sick. Only those with evil purposes create secret societies with secret oaths, with particular purposes known only to the initiated few. So the purpose of the Order of the Quest, remember that, the Order of the Quest, was not beneficial to freedom-loving peoples, no matter that Mr. Hall says they labored in the cause of world democracy. So again, how can you have democracy where decisions are made by the majority of the people when the people are being deceived? I keep doing this. That's how I use my hands, if you notice, when I'm talking. But trust me, it's not an intentional 666. So the purpose of the Order of the Quest was not to beneficial to freedom-loving peoples. No matter what Mr. Hall says, they labored in the cause of world democracy. And I keep saying, how can you have democracy with the people making decisions when the people are being lied to and deceived and they don't know what the truth is about the decisions? Like with the Trump election and Hillary Clinton, we have Tweedledee or Tweedledum, Trump's mansion, condo in New York City. Go look it up. It looks all Freemasonic lodge inside, occultic. And what was his name? Larry Franks? The guy who, I think of his name, who was the Clintons' handler, Larry, who was on the Alex Jones show, and Lisa Haven talking about all the shenanigans going on with Hillary, going to witches' conventions. These people are into the occult. There's so much bad stuff about the Clintons. And how many people who worked for the Clintons conveniently died. Even when George Bush was in president and 9/11 happened, how many people, Jewish people, were conveniently told not to go to the Twin Towers to work that day? Webster Tarpley, in his book on 9/11, plus many others, and YouTube videos, it is obvious they did 9/11 to fool all of us people while we were in shock and awe. They immediately pulled out the Patriot Act, was already ready to be signed, and passed more legislation. Apparently the president can have anybody arrested for anything and disappeared with no rights to a lawyer or notifying their family or anything. What kind of world are we living in? A scary world. Drones. And they're going to continue doing, in my opinion, these horrific situations of shootings and bombings and media publications and silly nonsense to try to get people to believe and allow themselves to be disarmed. And whenever they pull off the martial law, everything will be taken over by these people. Just like the Russian Revolution, where they killed all the Christians, 100 million, and good people, and the Chinese, where they killed all the millions, maybe 100, 200 million. I don't know the exact number on that one. But it's quite a horrific number. And in these same situations, they had to disarm the people. Even during the war between Britain and America trying to free itself, the British were trying to disarm the Americans. I think in Germany, World War II, didn't they disarm Austria? They did this all the time. They needed to take the people's weapons before they proceeded to attack the people, destroy the people. So the purpose of the order of the quest was not beneficial freedom of loving peoples. They must know something that the rest of America does not know. Their cause is evil. They want this new world order, new age, and it's not meant to be that we all live in some utopia. That's why Professor Higger wrote the book, The Jewish Utopia, and the Protocols of Zion, and so many other books. And men smarter than me. That's why I read books and do these book reviews. I could have just studied these subjects and maybe wrote 1 or 2 or 3 books myself. But I saw a higher calling here, that all these people who've already done the work, it just need to be reintroduced to the public. I don't think I could probably outdo this man, or many of the other good authors. If the designs on the obverse side of the seal, the eagle, is stamped with the signature of the order of the quest, we're talking about the U.S. dollar bill has all those symbols on it. The pyramid is even more definitely related to the old mysteries. And if you look at the hieroglyphics of the Egyptian pyramids, we can see the eye, we can see all these evil symbols of the ancient mysteries. These different gods. Here Mr. Hall connects the reverse side of the Great Seal with the ancient mysteries and the worship of Lucifer as the sun god. Even Obama's logo is the sun rising over the 3 stripes, the sun god. And many of the symbols for the businesses and banks and gas stations, there's a big sun there. And swastikas, different variations in the logos. If you pay attention and look, and the eye is everywhere. You can see it all. It's all clear. All 3 committees appointed in succession by the Congress between 1776 and 1782, including members holding various positions in Freemasonry, were responsible for trying to create the Great Seal of the United States, which is all occultic. Continuing on, so those who were deciding to the design of the Great Seals were not only Masons. It's the Great Seals on the $1 bill. On one side is, of course, the pyramid and the eye, and the other one is the eagle and all that you can see on your $1 bill. Those are the 2 sides of the Great Seal. The 13, 13, 13, 13s, the eagle, the 6-pointed star, the eye, the reptilian eye, the sun, the 13 steps on the pyramid, and then it says the New World Order and mission complete, Anutus Compiensis, however it says that. So those who were deciding the design of the Great Seals were not only Masons, but they were quite possibly members of the Order of the Quest. European mysticism, here we go, the occult, was not dead at the time the United States of America was founded. So again, the 2 parties initially in the United States were the Mason Party, you can call it witchcraft, and the Christian Party, which was the 10 Commandments and treat others how you want to be treated, and God and Jesus and all that. And they fought each other. And eventually the Christian Party was destroyed, and then they came up with the Democrats and the Republicans. And they swore, remember all the politicians, they wouldn't be in the House of Representatives or Congress or the President, like George Bush coming from the Skull and Bones. Obama is a Mason. They have to go through the Masonic lodges in order to get in those positions, to get the money and support. Rarely does anybody make it, including John Kennedy. But apparently when some people make it, they have a case of consciousness, and they want to do the right thing, and they try. Like Kennedy said, there was these secret societies running the country and the world, and he intended to expose them. You can see the speech on YouTube on some of the videos, or in writing if you look it up, Kennedy's speech. And he's dead shortly after in a Masonic park called Delaney Plaza. The Great Seal is the signature of this exalted body, unseen for the most part, unknown. And the unfinished pyramid on the reverse side is a trestle board, setting forth symbolically the task to the accomplishment of which the United States government was dedicated from the day of its inception. So America has a secret destiny, and that secret purpose was being kept from the majority of the American citizens. Page 137. Careful analysis of the seal discloses a mass of occult and Masonic symbols. So the U.S. dollar bill has witchcraft all over it. James H. Billington has been the director of the Woodrow Wilson International Center for Scholars at the Smithsonian Institute in Washington, D.C. since 1973. He received a doctorate as a Rhodes Scholar at Oxford University in England and taught history at Harvard and at Princeton. He has written a book entitled Fire in the Minds of Men. I believe I have that book. Origins of the Revolutionary Faith. So remember, Lucifer, the angel, and a third of the other angels were cast out of heaven for their revolutionary activities. And according to other books I have, that he was claimed to be the first revolutionary. Remember, they had the Russian Revolution, the American Revolution, the Chinese Revolution, the French Revolution. They have many of them where they riled up the people to attack the state or the rich people. Again, conquer, divide and conquer. So this is their method of operation, modus operandi. And they're doing it now. Whether it's black on whites, straights on gays, Americans against Mexican immigrants, Americans against Muslims, rich against poor, North against South, etc. The idea was the occult simplicity of its meaning America, great seal, an all-seeing eye, and a pyramid over the words Nodus Ordo Seclorum. The words Anute Scopius means announcing the birth of. It's what it says on our dollar bill. So it says on the top there, Anute Copius, announcing the birth of, and the bottom it says Novus Ordo Seclorum, the New World Order, when they want to destroy Christianity, and it is definitely a satanic, Luciferic religion, which has always controlled our government, no matter what they say about church and state separation. They want separation of church and state when it comes to the good God and Jesus, but they don't want separation of church and state when it comes to the evil demon God who is into perverted, crazy, insane sex and domination and sacrificing people to death. The enemy of God. In the Bible, Jesus says, ye are of your father the serpent. In Revelations, it says, ye, those who call themselves Jews but are not. Revelation 9. Alright, it gets crazier. The eagle on the obverse side has a very definite mystic meaning. So the eagle is on the other side of the Great Seal. Manly P. Hall gives us one symbol. Apparently in Morals and Dogma, I've gone over this in the past, the eagle represents Mendes, and Mendes, if you go look that up on Yahoo image site, I think I'm getting worn out of talking. Mendes also means eagle, which means the devil. In mysticism, the eagle is a symbol of initiation. The eagle, this emblem, is of great antiquity, figuring in the symbolic inventory of the Egyptians as the sun. As wisdom is attained through reason, the eagle is also symbolic of reason. So they want us to all have a religion of reason, not a religion of God's words. Among the Egyptians, the eagle was an emblem of a wise man, because his wings bore him above the clouds into the purer atmosphere and nearer to the source of light. And his eyes were not dazzled by that light. Since the eagle also represented the great Egyptian sun god, Amun-Ra, it is the symbol of the infinite supreme reason of intelligence. So Lucifer would be the supreme reason of intelligence, and apparently they want you to believe that God was being unreasonable when he kicked him out of heaven, cast him out, with a third of the angels, spiritual beings, angels, beings of light, cherubs. We're going to go over this. With the Egyptians, the Greeks, and the Persians, the eagle was sacred to the sun. Albert Pike says, a bird consecrated to the sun in Egypt. The eagle was the living symbol of Mendes, a representative of the sun. And again, go look up Mendes on Yahoo image site, and you'll see who Mendes is. The eagle has been linked to the sun. The word has been capitalized, apparently referring to the sun as a deity. The eagle is also supposed to be the only creature that can look directly into the sun. The eagle in the seal has 9 feathers, and either 32 or 33 feathers on each of the 2 wings. Not too much further to go. The 9 tail feathers of the eagle represent the 9 beings in the innermost circle of the Enlightenment in the Great White Brotherhood, or the Illuminati. There is another explanation, one more acceptable than the one offered above by Stan Deyo in his book entitled The Cosmic Conspiracy. I've made a video on that. 32 degrees inside the Scottish Rite of Freemasonry and 33 on the left side, symbolic of the honorary 33 degrees. And the all-seeing eye above the pyramid on the Great Seal of the United States has 2 meanings, both related to the Masonic order. The ubiquity of Masonic law was symbolized by the all-seeing eye. The Masons are saying that their law, the one that will punish the Masons should he reveal their secrets, is everywhere, and that he cannot hide from it. Remember, they swear under threat of death they can't reveal the secrets. The second interpretation of the symbol of the eye, by Albert Mackey, an important symbol of the supreme being, borrowed by the Freemasons from the nations of antiquity. The open eye was selected as the symbol of the watchfulness and the eye of God, as the symbol of the divine watchfulness and the care of the universe. The all-seeing eye may be considered a symbol of God manifest in his omnipresence. And again, you talk to people, your friends, they tell you can't talk politics, you can't talk religion. And you say you believe in God, and they say you're crazy. There is no God. So they really have convinced a majority of the population to turn their eye from God. You think there's a reason for that? When we can tell here and on the dollar bill, they're not turning their eye from their occultic God. So the simplest explanation of the symbol is that of the symbol of a deity. All right, moving on. Page 141. The New World Order with Ralph Epperson. Fascinating book. Seemingly a culmination of a lot of the research I've done. So strange. I spend years trying to figure it out, and I buy a book. And somebody back in 1990 figured it out. What the heck is going on in the world? All right, moving on. Kenneth Mackenzie, another famous Freemason, wrote, "The eye was also the symbol for Osiris." Who's Osiris? I don't think I have to repeat it, but I'll mention it. Was the husband of Isis, and they had a child named Horus, which is representative as the all-seeing eye on the U.S. $1 bill. And ISIS was in the news today, apparently is planning on a worldwide revolution. Of course, they're blaming the Islamic State, calling it ISIS. But if you read this material, You can't be fooled. You know who it really is. It's the members of the occult secret societies, which I call short witchcraft, so everybody can understand it. It's a much clearer word than occult. This, the all-seeing eye, is one of the oldest and most widespread symbols denoting God. The open eye of Egypt represented Osiris. So when they say, "In God we trust," which God are they talking about? The symbols indicate the light being Lucifer, and the many other names he goes by. And of course, in the God of the Bible, the Ten Commandments, the Father of Jesus, there is only one God. And number second commandment, thou shalt worship no idols. And all these gods, like the all-seeing eye, it's all idols. Idol worship. Statues of Baphomet, archways of Baal, eyes, symbols, all devil sign, triangles. Mr. Mackey also confirmed, another Freemason, famous, the all-seeing eye was the symbol for Osiris. The Egyptians represented Osiris, their chief deity, by the symbol of an open eye. Osiris, the sun, source of light and principle of good. His symbol, therefore, was an open eye in honor of the great eye of the universe, the sun. This is called sun worship. Rex Hutchins, one of the most recent Masons to write a major book supporting the Masonic order, wrote that the all-seeing eye was a symbol of the sun. He wrote, "On the right side of a sash worn by a member of the Masons inside the temple is painted an eye of gold, the symbol of the sun or of a deity, the deity. The all-seeing eye, which to the ancients was the sun." Page 142. And I'm not reading everything, just my highlighted portions. So, the all-seeing eye is a symbol concealing the Masonic belief that Osiris, a representative of the sun, was a god, and some of these writers have reported that the sun god was Lucifer. So the all-seeing eye is a symbol of Lucifer, according to this author, and many other books and much material I've gone over, including the symbolism TV programs. NFL football uses the eye. American Idol uses the eye. TV news channels and stations use the eye as a symbol. It's everywhere. Logos for corporations. Rising suns are used for logos for the corporations. And we know the elite corporations pretty much control the world. A few corporations control the hundreds, that national corporations that control the world. So the all-seeing eye is a symbol for Lucifer, the all-seeing God of the universe. And it was placed on the American seal by those who knew what it meant. Now I ask again, if this is such a benevolent thing, this architect of the universe, why would they have to swear under threat of death, having their throats cut, to keep all this stuff secret? The work of creating a new world order was in 1782 still in the future. The triangle in connection with the all-seeing eye is the Masonic symbol of the great architect of the universe. Manly P. Hall told his readers, another famous Freemason, the great architect of the universe he was the master of the Masonic lodges. So this great architect of the universe is the master of all the lodges and many of the other Mystery School of Babylon, temples, logic, occult organizations, Lucifer worship, Satan worship, And again, they have to swear allegiance with their hand on a Bible of whatever Bible religion they are. It doesn't have to be just the Christian religion. That they will not keep the secrets and obey the master under threat of death. It's not logical that that would be a benevolent organization to have to keep those secrets from us, we the people, who, if you're not Jewish, the Jewish people into this Luciferic religion call us Goy and Goyim cattle. The Masonic Freemasonry books call us profane. And H.G. Wells, part of these elites, called us animals not to be trusted in his books. And much more. Protocols of Zion, a crazy book about all the things they plan on doing and how they're going to take over the world. The Jewish Utopia by Professor Higgins. Just look that up and read it. They really do not like the average person in the world. The Mason believes in the great architect. Let him never forget that the master is near. The all-seeing eye is upon him. Page 142. The great architect of the universe is the title of the God of the Masonic order. But there are some who feel that this God is not the God of the Bible, but Lucifer, considered by those to be the God of some of the Masons. Again, I'm just reading highlighted portions here. The author is one of those who believe that Lucifer is the God of some of the Masons. So that's the author of this book. After 27 years of his research, a smarter guy than I. Other Masonic symbols on the dollar bill, as told to the student by the Masons themselves, in their magazine entitled The New Age. I've shown the New Age magazine by the Freemasons, Scottish Rite, in previous videos. You can go on Abe Used Books and other used book sites and put on there the New Age magazine. And for $10 plus or minus, you can get one or two and read them. So a lot of people think this New Age is cool. Something that should be looked upon as the new paradigm, the new future. They'll argue with you. Why do they call it a New Age when it's a return to the past? The age of the religions where the earth was destroyed 2 times, at least I know of. The Great Flood and Atlantis, and cities 2 times. The Tower of Babylon in Babylon, and Sodom and Gomorrah. All for those who blatantly rebelled against God. And now they want the world to rebel against God again. You think they know what they're doing? And they're trying to recruit as many souls as they can. So on the dollar bill, there's the 13 leaves in the olive branches under the eagle, the 13 bars and stripes in the shield under the eagle on the dollar bill, 13 arrows, 13 letters in E Purim Unum on the ribbon, 13 stars in the green crest above, 13 granite stones in the pyramid, 13 letters in Anute Coepes, however you say it. On the front of the dollar bill is the seal of the United States, made up of a key, square, and scales of justice. I believe I've shown those. Page 144. One who has assigned an esoteric interpretation to the number 13 is Stan Deyo. I've gone over that book, and I'll go look at it again, called The Cosmic Conspiracy. So from my investigation, now 11 years into it, I can say it seems with certainty there's an abundant amount of proof that there are other beings in this universe other than we humans. And I don't think that there are other competing planets like Earth with more or less advanced societies or primitive societies, but a more spiritual realm, and that we humans on Earth are actually spiritual beings in these biological bodies. But anyways, in this spiritual realm, apparently there's a cosmic battle going on, and as it says in the Bible, a third of the angels were kicked out. And angels are these light beings. FYI. 13 is the value assigned to Satan. And so it says Novus Order Seclorum on the dollar bill, means New World Order. The New World Order. It is the future 1,000-year reign of the Lord Maitreya, the New Age Messiah. So apparently whenever this event is going to happen, and there's a lot of people, there's a huge earth-wide bloodbath, and apparently the good souls will be raptured up and beamed up off the planet like in Star Trek. Beam me up, Scotty. But the people who decide to stay will be here for this 1,000-year reign of this satanic Luciferic being that was cast out of heaven. The New Age Messiah, Lord Maitreya, is the Earth's representative of the sun god Lucifer. Like I said, this guy's a smarter guy than I. And I don't just believe in one book. I've got to read hundreds, and I have. And I have to make hundreds of videos, and I have. And I have to spend many years studying this daily, weekly, monthly, yearly. And I have. Not to be bragging, because a lot of other people have, and there's a lot of other high-quality videos out there in books. And obvious information in the newspapers and the TV programming. And the DNC, or Republican National Convention, the symbolism there. My Lord, they made Hillary out last night. This is the 29th of July, 2016. Sorry about that. The phone ringeth. Got to answer the phone if I want to make any money with my business. But anyways, I was watching Hillary Clinton, the Democratic National Convention, and wow, the praise that was poured on her for 40 years. What hasn't she done to save the world? Showed people in the audience crying, bawling, and it was just completely unbelievable. And the people are going to fall for it. Not that I'm anti-Democrat or anti-Republican. Larry Nichols, insider for Hillary Clinton and Bill Clinton, their handler, problem solver, tells all with Lisa Haven and Alex Jones show. Go look them up. Don't believe me. What Larry Nichols discloses, plus much more information on the Clintons. Tons of information, horrible information on Mr. Skull and Bones himself, George Bush. Lots of information about Obama. But they were praising each other to no end. They say now is not a time to change direction. Obama was called calling for change, and apparently Hillary's little nickname or symbol is the change maker. And we're reading about change in this book. America is to bring the new age to the world of the future. So they've been spending trillions, and they say we owe 13, 18 trillion in national debt. So these people who control the United States, and as I've said before, the Prime Minister of Israel, Zionist Israel, rule the world from Mount Zion, Israel, said that in a heated argument in his Congress, when they said we can't keep taking the Palestinians' land, something like that, the Americans will interfere, and Prime Minister Sharon shouted, "Don't worry about America, we control America." Benjamin Netanyahu in Fink's bar, look up what he said. They hate America. They're going to destroy America. And these people control the Republican Party and the Democratic Party. They control all the national corporations worldwide. They've orchestrated the failure and collapse of states and countries all over the world. Go read John Perkins, The Confessions of an Economic Hitman. They financed Hitler. Go read Suzanne and James Poole, Who Financed Hitler. After World War I, they infiltrated the Yiddish Jewish people into New York and the United States, who ridiculed and mocked we USA citizens who knew nothing what was going on. And Henry Ford bought a newspaper, the Dearborn Independent, and started publishing material that he believed to be the truth. I've gone over a couple of hundred books in my 11 years, and now that I can see the whole picture, there is a common denominator. This author seems to describe it quite well. I love the background noises here with the trucks on the highway. Not. Alright, moving on. Why should the Great Seal of the United States contain any symbols that conceal secrets from the overwhelming majority of the American people? Got bugs around here. I have to swish them off me. Especially if those secrets are symbolic of a religion that few of the Americans subscribe to. And I will say this, and I'll say it again. Back in 2008, I purchased some land up in Maine. I was living in Florida. And Florida was getting pretty weird for me after 2001 9/11. And I was getting closer to my retirement. And I thought maybe I could return to Maine, where I grew up as a child, teenager, and get away from the insanity I was seeing. People walking down the street with more metal piercings in their body. You know, you look like some kind of zombie. And serious satanic tattoos and just a lot of bizarre stuff. And this is coming from an ex-hippie. Smoking the wacky weed, growing up in the 60s and 70s. And partying, drinking beer, sailing, barbecuing. We were the hippies. We were the ones who were supposed to be out there. Disco dancing. Plaid pants, all that, the 70s, the 80s, the music, the 90s. Man alive, it's gotten even stranger for me. So I thought I'd go to Maine. And on the way up the highway, they were having the debates at 1 o'clock in the morning, 2 o'clock in the morning, or even daytime shows. I drove back and forth to Maine a dozen times. And 30-something% were for gay marriage, and 60-something% were against gay marriage. And the TV host, announcers, would say, "Well, I don't think gay marriage is going anywhere. A majority of the people are against gay marriage." And then the next year, it inched up a couple more points. And the next year, 2010, and 11, and 12, and 13, and 14, like this. The approval, all the way up to 50, 51, 52%, while the people who disapproved slowly went down. That's called re-education, and I call propaganda. And it was coming out of the United Nations and these elite organizations we're talking about in this book, this Luciferic New Age. It's clear to see, and I've got more documentation to prove it. I'll show two pieces of that information at the end of this video. And I'm on the last page on this book. The occult fascinated President, or Mr. Wallace, Henry Wallace, and he saw special significance in the Great Seal of the United States, even more in the reverse of the seal. So a lot of our elites, presidents, senators, representatives, and other famous people, they all come from the lodges or one organization or another: Heritage Foundations, Council of Foreign Relations, Club of Rome, Bohemian Grove, Rosicrucian, Illuminati, Freemasons, etc., Jesuits, Zionists, and they were all into this occult. So all those symbols on the dollar bill, the U.S. $1 bill, is occultic. So Wallace did induce the Secretary of the Treasury, after he had talked to President Roosevelt, to put the Great Pyramid on the new dollar bill in 1935. His susceptibility to the occult, witchcraft, had drawn Wallace in the late 20s into the orbit of a white Russian mystic in the tradition of Helena Blavatsky. We've been going over that, and I'm going to continue to read those books, The Secret Doctrine and ISIS Revealed. Dr. Nikolai Roche. Anyways, just reading my highlighted portions. President Roosevelt's administration. So President Roosevelt and Woodrow Wilson were clearly under the control of the Jewish Zionist bankster Illuminati folks. And those are the two people who brought us World War I, World War II scenarios. Anyways, President Roosevelt was first struck with a representation, all-seeing eye, a Masonic representation of the great architect of the universe. So not only does the eye represent Horus, but it is the great architect of the universe, Lucifer. Roosevelt, like myself, so this was, this author says here, was a 32nd degree Mason. I think Mr. Wallace said that. Some Masons created the Great Seal in 1782, and other Masons put it on the back of the American dollar bill in 1935, and it appears that all involved knew the meaning of the concealed symbol portrayed therein. So a lot of people like to believe that these symbols don't really mean anything, which would be ludicrous to begin with. Of course they mean something. And I think it's the responsibility of every thinking American and world citizen to find out what this stuff does mean. Why are they bent on destroying Christianity? Why are they buying 450 million hollow point bullets? Why are they building FEMA camps? Have they built them? Why are they staffing them up and modernizing them? Why are they converting Walmarts into some kind of prisons, FEMA camps? Why are they spraying chemicals in the sky? Why are they building those HARP microwave transmitters everywhere? Why, since 1980s and 90s, have they been talking about sustainability, biodiversity, overpopulation, global warming? They started out with global cooling, and then they made a switcheroo to global warming, and now that they got caught, they made a switcheroo to climate change. And people just can't seem to get their brain cells in working order and see that this is all propaganda. So go watch some of the videos on the Republican National Convention and the Democrat, and just pay attention with this stuff in mind, and you can see the propaganda. There is an abundance of evidence that the Masons were heavily involved in the founding of the United States and the design of the Great Seal. I would like to just share some seriously current information this morning. after watching the DNC convention last night. Anyways, I went to check my email, like I do every morning. And when you go on the computer, you know, Yahoo, you log on, the first thing you see is current events. There's Hillary and the National Convention thing. And then down below are a couple press releases. This is what I keep saying. So Clinton Democrat turned the tables on the GOP. So I guess whoever wrote this article wanted to decide that the Democratic Convention has turned the tables on the Republicans. And here I am, just going to check my email, but when you go on to yahoo.com, you have to look at the stuff, which I've been doing for years, so you don't have to go searching for this information, as I'm going to prove. Cleveland Pride was just canceled, and it hurts. Like I said, you don't have to look far for this stuff. Just check your email. So they canceled a pride parade. Remember, in 2008, 30% were for gay marriage, 30-something%, and 60-something% were against. And with billions coming out of the United Nations, Agenda 21, and all this other New Age propaganda, globalization, they've managed to turn the tide in people's thinking. Now, was the thinking of people correct back then, or was it correct now? It is different. Is it more correct to be supportive of lowering the age of consent for young people to have sex? Even the Talmudic Jewish people's propaganda or rules in their Talmud Bible to have sex with 3-year-olds, and lots of other stuff. We're all aware of it. And the transgenderism, forced approval by the government, apparently. And a lot of people get chastised if you're an elected official or a school teacher or anybody of any kind of popularity. If you're opposed to this, even though the Bible says a man should not lay with another man like he lays with a woman, then they will ruin your career. And in some places, it's a crime. They call it hate crime. So it'll be a hate crime to believe in the 10 Commandments. So anyways, I'm just checking my email, making a point here. And the second thing, of course, it's the whole page had more than this, but when I printed it out, that's how it blows it up. The 50 most important heroes of all time. I'm sure that's got some interesting propaganda-related incidents. And the third press release I noticed this morning, didn't even go looking for it on that. When I logged on my computer, checking my email, it was right there. I didn't have to go to a second page. But it says here, ISIS wants a global civil war. So I'm thinking to myself, son of a gun, is it ever going to stop? Rape survivor slams Hillary in powerful new NRA ad. Me Texas, LGBT activists. Government effectively establishes a religion. That's what it says here. This New Age thing is a religion. It's a Luciferic religion. And this is 7/29. Look at the date here on the bottom. To this morning. You can't make this stuff up. So I saw that ISIS wants a global civil war. I'm like, wait a minute. Didn't the CIA and NATO and all these other groups create Al-Qaeda? Like a mercenary group to fight their battles over there in the Middle East, Iraq, Afghanistan, etc. And apparently now they've created ISIS and they're arming ISIS. And now they say ISIS wants a global civil war. And let's see what else here that's related to the gay agenda, the lies about the satanic religion and other things. It says here, the Utah blamed the weather, not homophobic, for teen suicide epidemic. I kid you not. And tourism on the rebound in Iran. and Hillary Clinton has a huge lead over Donald Trump since last night. But the one I wanted to point out the most, just checking my email, trying to continue to make a point, but ISIS wants a civil global war. So how did I find this press release? Just making a point here. I did not go looking for it, and most of the other press releases I use on my media and press releases New World Order review for the documents that I've collected and printed out over the last 11 years. So here's one of the pictures. It's misleading because it's false and it's true. It says ISIS wants a global civil war. The people behind the creation of ISIS, remember the all-seeing eye on the dollar bill is Horus, and Horus's mother and father was Isis and Osiris. So it is the same ISIS, no matter what they want to tell you. All of it occurred in the Middle of the East. And so those people, the Illuminati folks, Zionist folks, Freemasonry, and of course not all Freemasons, and the Jewish Zionists, not all Jewish people, and Christian people who claim they're Christians but they're not, who are in these organizations at the leadership. A lot of people were of Jewish descent or said the religion that they adopted the Jewish religion, the Khazars. So these people who call themselves Jews, a lot of them when they came to the United States, changed their name and pretended to be Christians. So we don't even know how many senators, representatives, presidents have actually been Jewish people, because it's a deception. So here I am checking my email, getting back to my point and ending this video. ISIS wants a global civil war. London, agents of chaos. Did anyone in the Democratic National Convention notice the slaughter of an 86-year-old father, Jacques Hamal, as jihadists slit his throat in his own church in northern France during morning mass? Well, here's why they better start paying attention. And again, I'm not going to read all this. You can read it. This is in northern France. It's not these Arabs over there in Syria. I believe they're mercenaries and they're paid. And they're doing these things so that they can blame it on the Arabs, to demonize the Arabs, and they want to be attacking the Christians to try to rile people up. So these Arabs in the Middle East do not want a global civil war, although if I were them, I would be peeved and ticked and angry, because for the last, easily, since 1946 and before, they've been under attack since the European leaders, not the citizens, all of us have been left out of the loop. But the elites trying to bring about a new world order gave the Palestinians land to the Rothschilds to create the state of Israel. And they've been slaughtering the Arabs ever since. And in John Robinson's books, Dungeon, Fire, and Sword, and some of his other book, a serious historian, famous guy, that from 1000 to 1300 AD, 700 to 1,000 years ago, that's 300 years, they had 8 crusades, and every time the kings and queens and elites from Europe, taking a lot of the citizens with them as troops, would march across Turkey, across the northern border of the Mediterranean Ocean, Mediterranean Sea, come down from the north into Palestine towards Jerusalem and all the cities along the coast, and overtake the castles and murder all the Arabs. Nobody was left alive, and they got them open from the stomach to see if they'd swallowed any golden coins. That's what they would do to try to save them. And the blood, they said in John Robinson's book, would be knee-deep flowing out of the city. And then the pilgrims, the Christians, so they called themselves, from the crusade out of the Vatican would move into these cities with the kings and queens, the princesses and princesses, and then some Arab would rise up and wipe out all the pilgrims, and all the elites would hop on a ship on the Mediterranean on the coast of now called Israel and flee to get back home to safety. Then 20, 30 years later, the Vatican and the kings and queens would need more money and another adventure, and they would have another crusade and march across Turkey, the northern lands, pillaging along the way, raping and everything else to get supplies, to get to the land of Canaan, Palestine, coming in from the north again towards Jerusalem, overtaking the castles again, slaughtering everybody again, slitting open the stomachs. 300 years, 8 times. So what is different now? Since World War II, when the NATO and the Axis of the Europeans gave, in the newly created Zionist Jewish-controlled Illuminati United Nations, gave the Palestinians land, some of it, to the Rothschilds to create the State of Israel. And now, of course, we all know that most of that land belongs to Israel, and the Pals have very little left. And even Netanyahu recently said in a press release that there's never going to be a two-state solution. So what I'm trying to say here, without dragging this out, is I checked my email, I found this, ISIS, a global civil war. It's mercenaries, it's not all those Arabs. ISIS works for the global elite, trying to bring about a new world order, needing all this chaos and anarchy to justify their actions. Probably be responsible for this priest being killed in northern France, and all these bombings and school shootings, all organized, orchestrated, to sway the minds of we the people. Alright, another topic here. In my hometown, I'm sure you have magazines like we do. Free magazines with what's going on. Beyond bathrooms. HB2 sparks gender awareness, and they got that new symbol. Looks like a symbol for male and female. Androgynous. The devil's androgynous. Baal, Lucifer, I guess. Satan. And there was an article inside about the people doing protesters for the LGBT. So my point is this stuff comes out weekly, daily, monthly, yearly. And this one guy, I'll just describe him. I don't want to show anybody's face in this local town. But he's wearing a rainbow flag. He's in an LGBTQ protester. So I'm putting some pieces together here. And a symbol for a demonic demon is Moloch, an owl. He has an owl tattooed on his chest with the wings. And he's doing the devil sign. So we can combine his... He's in the LGBTQ parade. He has the rainbow flag in his hat. He has Moloch on his chest. And he's doing the devil sign. And I keep saying they're promoting this New Age religion, which is a Lucifer religion. And it involves all this craziness going on in the world. And it's right here. And apparently there's these other who used to be girls who are trying to be guys. One guy's t-shirt says, "This is what trans looks like." And he's holding a sign with some human waste on it. And another one says, "No HB2." So they got all these young people in our downtown parks or city squares involved in this stuff. And as my friend of mine recently told me, "You know, Rick, I don't think they know what this means, or the Moloch on the chest, or the rainbow flags, or the picture with the poop on it in this article, and the craziness." And I'm thinking to myself, at least in America today, from the young people I've seen and older people who are into this new age, various situations, representations, would, you know how many people have tattoos and body piercings and all this stuff. So out of 350 million people in America, what, 100 million are on this? They say there's more, but I'm being conservative. So 100 million people are out there with the demons tattooed on their body, daggers, skull and bones, part of the supporters of the rainbow LGBTQ pride parades and all this stuff. So 100 million people in the United States are involved in this, probably much more than that. And I asked my friend, I go, do you really think they all don't know or have some clue what this stuff means? And this stuff means? And this stuff means? It's gone to the point of insanity, this New World Order, New Age. And you can't avoid it. You can't check your email, you can't pick up a newspaper, you can't watch TV, the programming, animated cartoons, movies. You can't avoid it. Radio, downtown your city square. So this is serious business, while in the meantime, in my opinion, there are much more insane, important problems. People are being destroyed in the Middle East like there's no tomorrow. Bombing them, and they're planning on 37 countries got together with John Kerry the other day, and they're going to start a new program against this ISIS, which is an Islamic State, which doesn't belong to any particular country. And they seem to, usually when you see pictures of them, they're wearing masks. So I suspect they're paid mercenaries for this New World Order to cause all this terrorism and shooting and bombings in cities and countries all over the world. And people just are not, and my friend said people are, but I just don't seem to think people are aware that this is all propaganda and staged event to mind control all of us. And if people are awake, as my friend said, is there that much apathy out there, or that many people that don't think that the 100 million can have an effect on the politicians and the people to stop this insanity? Do we really have to allow World War III to happen, or some staged catastrophic event to bring about martial law and destroy the nation? I know I get a little worked up. But anyways, this is my third attempt at this short little 10-minute thing on my video. I had to take out the original version because my friend said I was showing the pictures of these people and other things. And it's where I live in the town, and she said it would probably not be a good idea. So I told her I would redo that 10 minutes, and I didn't like the second version, and I'm redoing it now. And my point is the propaganda just comes out there. Global warming, global cooling, drought, water shortages, food shortages, dollar crashing, stock market crashing, terrorist situation, shooting in California, shooting in Sandy Hook, shooting in Boston, bombings, Germany, Denmark, Greek, Turkey, again in Iraq, Afghanistan. And then we have all these other issues here in the USA with the Black Lives Matter, sponsored, I guess, by these elites, costing lots of money and organizing it. I've seen some of the tweets and emails that were hacked off of some of these people websites, and the elites are employing and giving these people money and support to call up all their friends and to organize these things. So I think it's a huge distraction, and people are falling for it. What do you think? Leave a comment. News and media stuff and magazines like this and press releases, as I've shown in my videos, is relentless. So with that said, let me just finish this stuff here. And I think it's going to get more intense, and more people who are opposed to this New Age teaching will be demonized more, called bigots and haters, and all we want to do is maintain traditions and family values and not a country of complete decadence and perversion, which I think is all being created so they can destroy the U.S., like Benjamin Netanyahu said, and they do control the United States, like Prime Minister of Israel Sharon said, and all those other book reviews and magazines and videos I've watched and press releases and research documents and the TV programming and the movies, commercials, billboards, magazines, the girls with one hand over the eye or the hair, it's everywhere. So moving on, the last page of this chapter I was doing, page 146. Osiris will rise in splendor from the dead and rule the world through those sages and philosophers in whom wisdom has become incarnate. Now remember, they said ISIS here wants a global civil war. ISIS is the creation of the elite. Just like these Sandy Hook school shootings, false flags to sway public opinion. They do need to disarm the people before they try to do martial law and take over the planet and cause some kind of catastrophic event to justify that action. And of course, they'll blame it on we the people. The return to a worship of Osiris and what he represents as the sun god, the worship of Lucifer, is still in the future. This was 1990. One who told the world that was C. Wilson Smith of New Orleans, Louisiana, in the September 1950 copy of the New Age magazine. It's a magazine created by the Freemasons called New Age. So I don't need to really keep on trying to convince people this is real. The evidence is clear. The Freemasons had a magazine called the New Age. Everything around us now, people believe it's the New Age. And they like it. It's about the shakas and ascension and meditation. And it seems to be deceiving people. The official publication of the Supreme Council, 33 Degrees Scottish Rite of Freemasonry. New Age magazine. I've shown these in my previous videos. They have Masonic lodges in every city, every country, all over the world. What Mr. Smith wrote is extremely revealing. After the student has learned that Lucifer is the god of some of the Masons, it appears that the way to truly understand what he wrote is to substitute the name Lucifer wherever he refers to God. He wrote, God's plan is dedicated to the unification of all the races. Isn't that what we hear? Globalization, biodiversity, religion and creeds. This plan, dedicated to the New World Order of things, is to make all things new. A new nation, a new race, a new civilization, and a new religion. A non-sectarian religion that has already been called the religion of the great light. Remember, Lucifer is called the light bearer. Looking back into history, we can easily see that the guiding hand of providence has chosen the Nordic people to bring in and unfold the new order of the world. Records clearly show that 95% of the colonists were Nordic Anglo-Saxons. Providence has chosen the Nordic race to unfold the new age of the new world, Novus Ordo Seclorum. So this is Mr. Smith writing this, believing this. God's great plan in America for the dawn of the new age of the world. Mr. Smith wrote this. Yes, some Masons truly expect Osiris to rise from the dead and to rule the world. The new age and the new world order is near. Some are expecting Osiris to rise. And another name they apparently are using is this Maitreya. And Lucifer, the light being. And then they kind of give us the story of aliens, greys, and reptilians. and the secret organizations of the Illuminati and Rosicrucian, Knights of Malta, Knights of Columbus, the Vatican and all its secrets in the cellar, the vaults below, the Jesuits. And the current Pope right now is a Jesuit, which are the military arm of the church. The Zionists, not to be confused with Orthodox Jews, who are trying to warn everybody by some of the famous authors who have written books that I've gone over. And all these organizations into witchcraft and the occult and the Kabbalah and the symbols on the TV, the movies, the Emmys, the Grammys, the Super Bowl halftime show, the newspapers, the magazines I just showed you. It's just there everywhere. Coming at us every day, 24/7, every week, every month. And from 2008, from 30% pro-gay marriage to 60-something% now. So game over as far as they're concerned. They can't allow any propaganda to be exposing them and have that trend reversed. They'll stop that. But we Christians and other good people allow them their due and their speech and freedom to speech, but they don't appear to want to allow the reverse. And that should be a warning to everybody. Thank you for watching my video. Rick Miracle reporting.